All right, fellas, how we doing?
We starting? You ready, Shawn?
Are you texting or reading about meme too?
No, Shawn's reading about memes.
Are we starting now?
He's doing the important thing.
And the clink.
Oh, God damn it.
Can we try that again, Justin? And click. Because the first one, yes, didn't fail.
Look. I like to raise my glass in the air after the clink. It's very important.
And then he hit the mic stand.
Yeah, that is good.
It's very interesting.
Justin, I think what's going on is you refuse to use my approach of doing the sideways mic stand.
Because I like having it right in front of me. Because if I use the sideways mic stand, then I block one of you.
But not yesterday. You just didn't want to.
That's also true.
Yeah, yesterday we recorded one of our regular episodes.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
We weren't trying to cheat on you. Anyway.
So
the only follow-up we really have is, what will Yestin commit to? I think he should chug a bottle of this wine.
I don't know.
And then record it.
Maybe that's a bit too much of a reward.
He's right,
Wait, who's right? Like, who are you
Shawn,
trying to? What outcome are you trying to get at this point?
Hey, I'm just, and this is if they end the show with Sam writing
A song of ice and fire.
If that happens.
Yeah. So you will eat. Well, you will drink a bottle of wine.
See, but like I'm saying, that's just a bit too much encouragement. Like,
and a pot of coffee. No?
What?
I think there's got to be something.
I
better.
feel like you keep trying to come up with something. I don't know if anything's actually going to come of this.
There's just nothing that interesting.
Especially since they're not gonna, they're not gonna end it that way.
You never know.
There's just nothing that interesting for you to do yesterday.
I know, I'm a very boring person.
Well, what if you get better eyesight? Can I dare you to do that?
What?
I dare you to get better.
Wow,
eyesight.
I feel like the blind bashing has just gone up more and more over the past few weeks.
It's like Tyrion bashing the eunuch.
Well, let's get into this episode.
Game of Thrones spoilers ahead. Okay.
Game of Thrones.
First of all,
8, episode 2.
That's right, but it's our episode 3 because our episode 1 was predictions.
Yeah, on the Throne.
So
Episode 3.
I feel like it's a little confusing for listeners.
I always considered the first episode 0.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Sort of. I don't know if I agree with that actually, but we won't get into it. Okay, so the episodes have not been longer. Has anyone noticed?
No, the first 2 are the shorter ones.
I thought we said that the first one was only going to be short.
No, the first one was like 53 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was like 54 minutes, and then after that they're like 80 minutes. I think the next one, and like 70 minutes, 72 minutes.
Okay.
And sorry, go on.
Oh, I was gonna say these 2 are the shortest of the 6 this season, of the 6 episodes.
Isn't episode 3 supposed to be like the longest battle sequence in cinematic history?
Yeah, that's what Shawn said last time.
Breaking new records.
It's gonna be interesting.
It'll be nice.
But that's next week.
Oh, I can't.
Episode.
I need another leak. I can't.
What?
Can't wait.
What do you need another week for?
No, a leak.
Oh, what do you?
Because this week's episode came out a little early.
Yeah.
Because I think it was Amazon Prime in Germany or something. Amazon Video somewhere in Europe. Like, they messed up. And like after the first episode, you could just watch the next one.
I was not aware of this.
And it wasn't like a worldwide thing. It was only like a small regional thing. Usually these leaks happen like in like a small part of the world.
I see. Yeah, like okay,
like I think last year it happened in Spain. HBO Spain was where the big leaks came out of.
I mean, that's also where you said the bigger leaks, like the script leaks are coming out of.
Yeah.
They're gonna just pull out of Spain. Maybe they should.
Maybe they've got a compromised agent.
Yeah, seriously. Okay. My question is, why name it A Night of the Seven Kingdoms before we get into like everything?
I mean, obviously. Come on, Arturo.
Well, I get that. That was a small part of the whole episode. And what we're talking about specifically is, jumping a little bit ahead, Brienne gets knighted. right? And that's presumably why they call it A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. But out of everything that happened this episode, why choose that as a title?
Not a lot actually happened this episode, though.
A lot of interactions. Would you say that getting knighted is like the most important thing that happened?
I go ahead and I have.
No, you go.
All right.
It's because we know Sean's coming at this from like a nerd.
So, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is the name of a compilation of short stories that George R. R. Martin wrote, detailing the adventures of. Go ahead.
To be clear, I also know this because you're looking at me like, oh, look at Shawn over here. Like, this is common knowledge.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Jenny Oldstones?
Isn't Brienne related to the person who's the main character in that book?
Yeah, it follows the adventures of Sir Duncan the Tall, who is friends with and eventually Kingsguard of his squire, Aegon the Fifth, who is the younger brother of Maester Aemon.
Oh, I see.
And Sir Duncan the Tall was this legendary Kingsguard member and great warrior that is rumored to essentially Brienne is rumored to descend from Sir Duncan the Tall, and that's kind of like a callback to the that's what that's in reference to.
So I came across some stuff because I did some research, right? So they sang Jenny Oldstones. They sang of Jenny Oldstones, and apparently that's the woman that Sir Duncan the Small gave up the throne for, or is it just the Tall?
Sir Duncan the Tall.
Is there a Small, or did this person just write it wrong?
I know the story that you're referring to. I'm terrible with some of the names of some of that stuff, but yeah, Jenny of Oldstones was like one of the Targaryens gave up his throne to like be in love with her or something like that. And
well, I bring this up because I thought it was a weird name for the episode, so I started looking around the subreddit and stuff like that. I was a little bit aware of that too. I guess we were all aware, but yeah, I thought just Yeston wouldn't be. How are you aware of this?
He's smart.
Yeah, come on, Arturo.
He's involved.
You underestimate me.
I don't know. Like on our predictions episode, you were like, "Wait."
It had been a while, but now I'm into it. Can we go back at a bit more of a maybe open, positive note rather than just immediately criticizing the title?
Yeah.
This episode.
That wasn't criticism. I was curious.
Okay, this episode, yay or nay?
Overall, it depends on what you're looking for in the episode. If you're looking for like an action-packed one that moves the story forward, no, it didn't move the story forward. It's kind of all wrapping things up.
It's fan service.
Yeah, essentially. Before, and when I was watching this, someone I was watching said something that kind of put it in perspective. It reminded me of like a sitcom or like a TV show where it's like everyone in high school is going to a party right before they graduate or kind of thing. And like people are hooking up with each other. People are like shooting the that have never talked to each other over like, because they're never going to see each other again kind of thing.
That makes sense. Did you like it though?
I liked it. Overall, I liked it.
Okay. So yay.
Yay.
Yeston?
I feel like I'm being manipulated. I feel like they know what they're doing. They're pulling some story writing strategies to redeem some characters, maybe falsely, but I don't care. It's so goddamn wholesome. Like
I'm talking about Brienne.
Just the whole deal. It reminds me of actually. You ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender?
No.
Oh my gosh, we need to do a podcast on that next.
I mean, I've watched probably like the first season.
Then you don't
of
even
Korra, and I've watched.
Korra.
I remember the Avatar coming out, like the show coming out, but I don't think I ever watched it enough in chronological order. Definitely not the later seasons. I definitely watched a lot of the earlier seasons, but I don't know if I managed to do them in chronological order.
Oh, buddy.
I'm so sad. But anyway, you should watch them. It's the original show is very good. They have an episode very similar to this before their final battle, which is like a sequence of 4 episodes. But instead they go to a play that's like a parody of their whole journey. And that
that was not what this was.
I think it was.
I definitely saw a lot of
no, because this was that what he's talking about in Avatar is recapping their story.
But
right?
it's also like exploring the different themes and stuff like that, and sort of bringing sort of relations between characters that have been under the surface for a while to like a forefront.
Okay, it's hard to discuss the specifics because we are essentially discussing that episode.
And
let's start it to this. But what I'm saying, it's hard to do that when we haven't seen it in a while. And I don't remember that being the case as much as it was here. That was mostly a recap episode, in my opinion. We don't have to get into it. Yeah. We should, though, at some point.
At some point,
you gotta watch Avatar.
But so for me, I'm sorry. It's an A.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry. Like, I did like this, but I thought it could have been at the end of the last episode. Like
Not all of it. No way.
Well, maybe it's just like an efficiency thing that I'm thinking of, but they could have made the first episode longer and gotten a lot of this in there.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with some of that.
I feel like this episode is totally different from the first episode in its purpose, and I feel like to try to tack on some of this episode would feel weird. Like, they feel totally separate to me. Episode 1 feels like a real setup episode, whereas this is more of a sort of sit down and relax episode.
I don't mind, and maybe it just had this preconceived idea of what the episodes were going to look like, right? And this doesn't fit that. But I was a little disappointed because I thought, we have 6 episodes. Why are they wasting one on this? You know, I thought this could have been in the first episode or add one more episode. Again, depending on how they do the rest of the episodes, maybe it won't matter, right? But I couldn't tell you. Like, I couldn't tell you what I thought the episodes were going to look like. But I just thought 6 episodes, it seems like they're wasting one. Maybe if they had said that from the beginning that they're only going to do 7 episodes, I would still feel the same way because I'd be thinking, okay, they're not going to do this, right? Or they're going to go a certain route. That's just me.
But I like having this opportunity to just sort of, it's a calm before the storm where you get to appreciate where everyone's been and how everyone got to where they are now. And they get a little bit of like solace before, you know, maybe they all die. I mean, they're not going to, but I don't know. I think it's important.
The one thing. Well, first of all, let me say this: the entire episode could have been complete. Like, they could have been saying nothing, but the fact that Ghost was in the episode,
oh my God,
made it everything better.
Okay,
I'm so happy.
There's a conspiracy theory that they didn't originally have him in because it's such a weird. He really is just in the background and he doesn't look particularly good. And there's a conspiracy theory that like the backlash after the airing of the first episode, they were like, we gotta put him in, and then they just really quickly CGI'd him in there.
I doubt, but
I don't think that's actually the case. But I thought it was very funny how nonchalantly he just happens to be there.
What I was gonna say, the one thing I wished that I could have from this episode, just one tiny scene of Cersei to see what she's doing. But I understand why they didn't do it.
But I mean, they've done that before, like in earlier episodes when it was just the Night's Watch and there was nothing else. You know,
that would have been tainted though. Then I mean, if we're talking about I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No.
But if we're talking about the wholesomeness of this episode, because everything was pretty good. Like, this was nothing tragic really happened, right?
But it's predicting tragedy.
It is, right? But if you had put Cersei in there, that would have been like a little bit of ink in some clear water.
See, but I feel like that it still felt like last episode until after the scene with Jaime in the Great Hall. Okay. I think it didn't feel like this good, warm, like feel good / build up to next episode until like after that. So I think they could have like put like a little thing of Cersei, like see what Cersei's doing right after they see what Jaime's doing.
I could see that, and I did skim through the episode after I watched it, and I was surprised at how much of it was before Nightfall, because Nightfall is when you get all of these scenes between the characters, but there is quite a bit before that where I do see what you mean. I still think I still prefer that it's only Winterfell though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's start talking about some of the notes that we took. So we'll try to go chronologically. You guys just interject when you feel like it. First, the intro. It was different.
Yes.
Yeah, it featured the Iron Throne, which is funny because we didn't see anything about the Iron Throne.
Yeah, we saw the Iron Throne. We saw it go down to King's Landing last time. Remember?
Yeah.
What was different was that the path of the the White Walkers moved past Last Hearth.
No, I'm talking about the intro.
I know, no. But the only thing that was different about the intro, like you're saying, is the path of the White Walkers, the flipping tiles. The King's Landing was seen in the first intro as well.
Yeah, but the actual Iron Throne. Maybe I'm not remembering correctly.
Yes,
No,
it is. It is. It's the same animation and everything because I remember recognizing it as a cool animation. Yeah. And I get why they would want to keep it in the second episode, even if King's Landing isn't in the episode, because they got to fill out the intro somehow.
Yeah.
Like
there's only 2 relevant locations now.
Exactly. So.
Oh wow! Then I really didn't pay attention to the intro last time.
Yeah.
Those intros are important.
Yeah, it showed the path of the White Walkers coming down, and also it showed the tents and like the stuff, the temporary like trenches that they've erected around Winterfell now.
Which you can see the beginning of the construction of those in the first intro as well.
Okay. That's cool.
Now, okay, I know this is really pedantic. They show them sort of walking west toward Winterfell. The way it's laid out in the intro map seems to be that there's the wall, and then down south from that is
Last
Hearth, and then west of that is Winterfell. Mm-hmm. Which isn't quite how it should be laid out. And even in the show, they say they're coming from the north. And I found a map, of course. And Winterfell is significantly further south than it appears to be in the intro. I know that's the most pedantic, like, okay, it's an animation, but I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Just to be annoying.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I put here that in the first episode of the season, we were left with a Jaime cliffhanger, right? I really wanted to see Bran and Jaime interact like at the beginning of this episode. We didn't quite get that. I thought
Not
that was
until later.
Yeah. I thought it was a little bit ball busting. I didn't like that. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Do you have any opinions?
I don't understand. I don't think it worked very well. It was because Bran, like you see him, Bran's at the end of last episode. Bran's next move probably wouldn't be to call the guards on the Kingslayer. So it makes me wonder, like, if he was just staring there for a second and then, like, somebody realized who he was and, like, brought him to the queen or something.
Yeah. It feels like an unfulfilled cliffhanger.
Because, yeah, the way that Bran spoke to Jaime later in the episode doesn't really seem conclusive or conducive of
that they first saw each other.
Yeah. Of how they first saw each other.
Yeah, so I thought that was a little bit weird. And then we get to Jaime's trial, essentially, right? And Tyrion vouches for Jaime, but it means nothing.
Oh, I love it.
And I was kind of expecting that Tyrion's word wasn't going to have any weight as soon as like Daenerys found out that there was no army.
Yeah. With last episode we talked about Tyrion's fall from grace. Yes, and you seem to be reveling in that.
I like that it is recognized the bad mistakes that he's made. Some of those mistakes were legitimately bad. Some of them were bad writing, I think. But I do like that that's recognized. Of course, what I was mentioning that I feel manipulated before is that like they pull a thing where they have Dany sort of decide to sort of forgive the mistakes that Tyrion has made, and in the same way they're hoping that the audience will as well, and they're sort of reconnecting him, even the way that they have him quote lines from way long ago when he was a more respected character. Feels like they're trying to say, no, he's not that bad, like we want to put him back into your good graces. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Not only of the characters in the show but also of the audience.
One thing that I've noticed, it seems that as the story goes on, you kind of get into the leader's mindset where you don't really think about their past mistakes or what flaws of theirs or mistakes of theirs or redeeming qualities of theirs brought them to this point.
Maybe it's not in quite in this way, but kind of like how in Breaking Bad, you find yourself rooting for this murderer, right? This anti-hero.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that Daenerys necessarily fits that description.
No, I wouldn't say so. Not. She's not Walter White.
No. But you do find yourself rooting for her, despite some questionable actions that don't align with the heroes.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if I'm rooting for her. Well, I think that relating it to Breaking Bad, I think is a little bit different. I feel like, especially in an episode like this, where they are trying to make it like a feel-good episode, there is a tendency to forget the complexity of the characters in order to just sort of enjoy their presence.
Well,
I'm talking more about towards how the way she perceives Tyrion is the way that like the show has us kind of perceive Tyrion until her perception of Tyrion changes, and then like we go back to the god of tits and wine Tyrion for the next like 20 minutes talking around the campfire drinking.
Do you guys think that that his writing did shift back to that, like throughout that episode?
I think it was intentional. If it did, I don't think it was like a random like 360 flip though. It wasn't like I'm a bumbling idiot to suddenly I'm like I'm like the cleverest person alive.
See, I saw some people saying like, "Oh, finally Tyrion has good writing again," and I don't know if that's really the case. Like his writing wasn't great in this episode. The only really sort of funny thing he said was something that he said seasons ago. I think that again they are just sort of putting him in a place where the characters are forgiving him, or at least Dany is, and thus the audience will be too. And I don't know if they're going to be able to maintain the same quality of writing that he had seasons ago. So I don't know. We'll see. Like I enjoyed him in this episode, but he didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah, and throughout that trial, Bran quotes Jaime, and he just says to him, "The things we do for love." And I thought, well, first of all, I saw some people online saying, "Who needs a dragon when you have Bran spitting that fire?" And it was really good. Like as soon as I heard that was a well placed quote on the writer's part. Yeah. And then we get to Brienne defending Jaime, and that definitely trumps Tyrion defending Jaime.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys think that Tyrion deserves that treatment? That sort of loss of trust?
Obviously.
Yeah, in that position, yes.
Okay. Even from an audience perspective, where we know that he's coming from good intentions, he wants to believe that his sister has changed. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not just that. Of course, he's made some bad mistakes, but would you say that everything came from a good place?
I say that both his willingness to trust Cersei and Daenerys's unwillingness to listen to him defend his brother both come from good places.
Okay. And does that excuse the mistakes he's made?
I think even he says like that doesn't excuse the fact that like he underestimated Cersei. Like I think he even says it in the series or in the show, or he says something along the lines of "I was wrong." And
well, there's underestimating, and he says to Jaime himself, like, "You've always known what your sister is, and you still chose to love her." Mm-hmm. That might be the case here. I mean, not in the same way, but he's always known what his sister is, and he chose to believe her.
That is a good point. That could have been more based on hope rather than realistic views of his sister.
I feel like when he tells Jaime that, he's kind of telling himself that, like, "Hey, you were an idiot," like to himself, and he's letting Jaime know that he was also an idiot for, maybe not an idiot, but just someone who
read their own cards wrong, kind of.
Yeah, something like that.
I didn't think of that. That's smart.
I'm a smart guy. What? Yes, Tim.
Nothing.
Right. Also, the wine helps.
Mm-hmm.
It just helps you think I'm smart. Everyone should be drinking wine when they're listening to this.
I'm a fan of this wine. I'm going to take a picture of it.
It's good, right? Like it's a little sweet, but not really.
Yeah.
And it's very, very strong for a wine. 16%. Shawn took a photo of the wine. Okay.
Yes.
Jamie apologizes. Like then we finally get to that interaction that I was talking about that I wanted at the beginning of the episode, where it's just Jamie and Bran, and Jamie apologizes, and then like I thought of this as soon as it happened too, like Yeston said that Bran was gonna be like, it doesn't matter, like it had to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And that is exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. So good call on that, Yeston. Okay, he clicked his tongue. And it's just to me, it's weird to see Bran like this. Like I don't think I've quite accepted that he's not Bran anymore, just because he looks like him. And maybe that's why, I don't know. I just don't like the thought of like somebody else being in Bran's body. I mean, is that what it is? Or he's...
It's very complicated, Arturo.
Yeah, but you guys get what I'm saying? Like, he's not occupying his own body as the person he was at the beginning of the series.
It's more that, like, his body has become a vessel for...
And that, to me, is so weird, right? Yeah. I just don't like thinking about that.
I like that everyone just kind of accepts his position of knowledge at this point. Like, they don't question him. They're just like, obviously, he knows what he's talking about.
Well, I don't think anybody else realizes that he's not Bran anymore. Yeah. Not to the way that we do.
Tyrion might now that finally someone sits down and talks to Bran and asks him what the hell happened.
Yeah. Now, of course, like, this got me thinking about how Jaime really changed as a character. And then, like, why do you guys think he changed? What was the turning point for Jaime? Because obviously, at the beginning of the series, he was someone who was willing to push a kid out a window. And I know we said that it was because, like, it was kind of circumstantial, like he's essentially a good guy. But there's different kinds of good guys that are willing to do certain things, and he's changed from one to another, right?
I would say that a lot of it is him watching the nature of Cersei and watching what that sort of blind loyalty gets you. Because that's what he said. He said, you know, everything he did for the sake of his family. But I think watching her descent and realizing what she's sort of really become and what maybe she always was has forced him to see what he could have become and turn away from that maybe.
Maybe. I have a different idea. Do you have any thoughts?
My thoughts are, I mean, you see it over the span of the series. I don't think there's one specific instance that turns Jaime 100% against Cersei. Mm-hmm. Even though obviously the undead, like, it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, but that was by no means the first straw.
Yeah.
I think Jaime has always been someone who has a decent idea of what is right, but his living in a world that in a world that
I'm gonna octave that down by the way.
Living in a world where duty and honor is so ingrained in every strong male that is raised, especially to a lord. It's just, you see a lot of conflict of interest when he's trying to do the right thing, but he's also trying to make everybody who's loved him and raised him and given him what he has, he's trying to give them what they want too.
Okay.
And eventually he's just kind of seeing that, well, what they want isn't what's best for everybody else and what I know is correct.
Right. I'm kind of a critic of Jaime. I'm a fan of Jaime, don't get me wrong. But I am a critic of him because somebody changing, it just doesn't happen very often, right? And in the way that he's done it, it's commendable for anyone that's able to do something like that. But it's also, it gets me thinking about, like, how. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's when he lost his hand. He lost a lot of, well, first of all, he's just, you could say he's a cripple. I mean, that's certainly how he views himself. And that humbled him down quite a lot. Like, he's no longer the same man he was when he became the Kingslayer. He lost a lot of, like, he's no longer able to defend himself and those he loves in the way he was able to. And that's going to bring you down. That's got to get you to rock bottom, right?
Oh, I was gonna. I could concede with that. I could definitely say that the Jamie did not start to change until after his hand got lopped off,
and that was this big thing that happened to him. Like his change didn't come from a place of wanting to change.
Mm-hmm.
His change came from like from a weak place, like from rock bottom. It's like you get torn down, and then he got built back up into this Jamie. And I don't know if that means that he wanted to change.
Well, I mean, a lot of the times in just real life with real people, sometimes it takes like a traumatic experience to see that, hey, I've been living my life wrong.
Yeah.
And maybe I should change some of the way I'm doing things here.
Does that take away from the change? Or do you guys think that somebody that is still in the same position physically and mentally that they were when they were this horrible person, and then they decide to change on their own, is that more commendable than somebody that has something tragic happen to them that brings them down to rock bottom, and then they can change from there? Which one do you think? Do you guys think one is better than the other? More commendable than the other?
Wait, what was the second option? Like
when like you, for example, lose a hand or experience a traumatic event, lose a loved one, or what say you? And then like you're at rock bottom, and then you come back up as this other person. Or if everything is the same and you take a step back and you decide, okay, this is not good. I need to change this. But there was no tragic event that happens.
Well, to me it sounds a little bit like you've played Skyrim, yeah?
Oh yes.
You remember the quote, what is better to be this obviously is a paraphrase, but like what is better, to be born good or to be born evil and overcome it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. What about it though?
I think in the end goal, as long as you've made a change, I think that making a change, whether it was willing or unwilling, is it takes a lot more than not changing at all.
Okay, so you don't.
So
think
I
that
commend.
matters?
I don't think it matters. I think some people just need to be shown because sometimes you just. Everybody, obviously, every situation is different. Sometimes the way you're raised or the way you've lived has led you to believe that the way you are living is currently correct, or blinded you to the fact that it's not.
Right. Okay. Yes,
Now we're getting pretty philosophical here.
Faux philosophical.
Yeah, faux philosophical.
Justin, do you have any thoughts?
When you lose a hand,
Okay.
masturbation becomes really hard.
No.
And as they say,
change your life.
suffering is the best way to develop empathy. And it's not. Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, yes. Then you didn't want to add to that. Okay.
So we were talking about the Jamie Brand scene.
Right. Okay.
Brand says, "What makes you think there's going to be an afterward?"
What?
Actually, he said, "How do you know there'd be an afterwards?" So
It's how do you know?
yeah, how do you know there's an afterwards?
So nothing is confirmed.
That's a little ambiguous.
Yeah, definitely purposefully ambiguous.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm so.
Do you think Jamie will die defending Brienne?
I think Jamie's gonna live, whether or not. Well, I mean, we can get into this later. That's how we end. That's how we end this episode.
All right.
Okay.
We'll save that for later.
That's foreshadowing then for the later part of this episode. The North remembers Targaryens coming north with dragons, right? I've always thought that saying the North remembers is like I don't know, like something a bitter old woman would say, and it just definitely comes across that way. I've never liked that saying.
Nah, man, that's a great saying because
You
it's
think
like
so?
you remember the tragedies
Okay.
and you learn from them, but also you remember your
No.
alliances.
No. Okay, this is getting a little.
Winter is coming.
This is dipping into like another universe, right? As far as the show mythos goes, but on episode 25, Justin.
Oh no.
Episode 25 of regular Memorycast, you say how you have to move on. and now, like as far as life goes, right? And now you're like, the North has to remember. We have to be
No,
like,
look.
Okay, pardon me. Did you just pull up dirt on him from episodes of a podcast that aren't even? Oh my god.
First
yeah, we're mixing the universe.
Look, I'm just saying that like you have to hold.
Clearly, I remember. So I'm the North. But you have to
Look,
what?
the North. Jesus, Arturo. My problem is that I don't even know how to address it. It's so stupid.
What? No, don't dismiss it like that.
It's a holding of it's a holding and it's
There's the belt.
it's a holding and a learning from memories, and it is a like consideration of alliances and honor. The North remembers.
Okay, that sounds stupid. We'll move on. So Jamie seems pretty confident and pretty comfortable talking about incest with Tyrion. Did you guys notice that?
He knows that Tyrion knows, and he knows that like, well, one, they think they're going to die as soon as the dead start attacking them. Which, I mean, most people, if the dead started attacking you, you'd be pretty sure that you're gonna die too.
Yeah, I mean, and we can get into why the crypts aren't going to be a good place to hide.
The crypt is the safest place in Winterfell.
Say it a few more times.
I know,
just
just to make sure.
That was a funny, like, I saw it everywhere on the Reddit.
So Arya has dragon glass daggers, and she throws them into wood. Are we there yet?
No, we skipped a bunch of stuff.
That scene was right after Jaime's scene.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Stuff.
I liked the one with what is his name, Kramer or something from Archer, and it's his stand-in for wow, I can't even remember people's names. Who's the hammer dude?
What?
Who's the hammer?
Oh, are you the my penis can only get
my
so
penis
erect?
can only get
erect
so
meme?
erect. Yeah.
Oh, are you talking about when Arya was throwing the knife?
Yeah.
Okay. What about it though, Yeston? This is why you're not the host.
I know. Wait, what's his name? The guy that Arya's Gendry, because Gendry is like watching Arya throw the knives, and he's like, my penis can only get so erect.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't want to.
We'll get to that.
Oh, I'm so okay. I felt some Jamie and Brienne sexual tension in their first conversation after the trial.
I don't like to believe that that's a sexual thing.
Yeah, I think that Jamie sees her more as like a respected, like he's a respected like soldier, like soldier and equal. I don't think that Jamie feels the same way towards her that she does.
Okay. Or that Tormund feels towards Brienne.
And I'll get in predictions later. But
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. After that, there was Jorah vouching for Tyrion.
Yes.
And like towards Dany, right? He was telling her, "Look, maybe you could forgive him. He's a smart guy. You're gonna need him." Yes. Essentially. Did you guys think that was fitting? Like, was that within Jorah's character to do that?
Again, I think they just needed to redeem Tyrion in the audience's eyes, and this was the best way they knew how to do it.
So you think that it was fitting for his character because you're saying this is the best way?
I think it was fine, but like I think it was a very calculated move. It wasn't like they thought that would probably be something Jorah did. I feel like it was that they thought we need to make the audience like Tyrion again. Who can we get to vouch for him?
Okay. Well, I'm liking seeing Jorah in a conciliatory role again towards his Khaleesi.
I like how he says Khaleesi.
Yeah, Khaleesi. If I could imitate any voice, I would want to be able to imitate him saying Khaleesi.
Sure. Right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want
Ian
Jon
Glenn.
Snow's like
no
raspy.
No, I just want to be able to say Khaleesi like Ian Glenn. Oh yeah, I really enjoyed seeing him counsel Daenerys again, like he was intended to do, and I do like the fact that she brought up how that he's taking her play, or he's taking Jorah's place. But I like the fact that Jorah realizes when that there's someone who's better suited for the job.
Yeah.
And even though like my experience and dedication to Daenerys doesn't make me any less of a like a trusted advisor.
I mean, I guess if anything, it shows that he really cares for Daenerys because he's willing to sacrifice his place next to her.
And I mean, that's been his entire role, the entire show.
That's true.
Who's the dude who just gets pushed out of rooms all the time now?
Oh, freaking Royce, I think it is.
That's happened 2 times.
Sir Bron,
where like
Bronze John Royce or something.
important characters walk in and they're like, I'd like to speak to you alone, and then he has to get up and annoyingly walk away.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, he's got an easy job.
Yeah, I like how he's not even from Winterfell. He's like the commander of all the Vale's armies. He's just like, I guess I'm Sansa's BFF now.
He's loyal to Sansa now because
I guess his aunt or her aunt.
Yeah, that's the closest blood relative, I guess.
Yeah, I guess they never really wrapped up. Well, I mean that happened in episode 8, but I guess we don't really know who is in control of the Vale. I mean, since Robin isn't of age yet.
It's true. I guess it would just be Sansa.
If anything, it might be the dude who keeps getting interrupted. Because
yeah,
I think within the book lines, he was he's one of the lords of the Vale. So I'd imagine they'd give the Lord Regent position to him or something.
All these positions and titles. Man, way to nerd up, yeah. Shawn.
Wow, harsh.
No, I mean, like, this is a good thing. This is what makes this podcast worth listening to, I think.
Absolutely.
All right. I do like Sansa's character treating Dany, like the way that she talks to Dany.
First of all, can we talk about Sansa's BDSM armor?
Excuse me?
What was that?
What BDSM?
What was that? Who's designing these things?
I did not notice any of this. I don't know what you're talking about.
So, Jorah tells Dany to go talk to Sansa, obviously, because that's where she goes in the next scene. And Sansa is wearing this armor that's like, he's pulling it up.
I'm trying to find it.
It's just.
But I mean, it's just like leather. Like she's been.
No, you gotta get the full view. Like it's.
Justin, is this your fantasy? Like
no.
Another redhead?
I felt in that scene like those two are both trying to manipulate each other. Like Sansa is taking from Littlefinger and being like, how can I sort of lead this path? And then Dany is being so weirdly doting.
She's like Jon's mom. I mean, kind of. I mean, she's kind of.
She doesn't know that.
No. I'm talking about Sansa. Like Dany's treating Sansa as if she is Jon's mother, in a way. Like she's trying to look good to her, sort of, even though she's still her queen. I think she's looking for her acceptance because of Jon, right? Would you guys agree?
I think Daenerys is trying to win Sansa over by like just being sweet and like, oh, we're on the same side, which is the case. They are on the same side,
but that's not really what she is.
Yeah.
So,
but
Sansa doesn't forget. The North remembers.
How
Sansa does not forget.
And then
she's a conqueror.
I think though that when when Theon comes back, because they're interrupted, and that's when Theon comes back. I feel like, and I saw some people speculating that could be Dany sort of realizing what this place means to the people who live there, and sort of recognizing that maybe it would be a good idea to not try to conquer it entirely.
Well, to explain a little bit, like Theon makes his appearance this episode in front of Sansa, and Sansa just runs to him and hugs him. And if you know anything about the previous seasons, which I'm assuming you do, then you know that Sansa was not forgiving of Theon when she first encountered him again after he was put through Ramsay through Ramsay's torture. And I guess this means that he's redeemed Theon. I mean, we're jumping ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when Sansa says goodbye to Theon and grants him leave, when after Brienne finally rescues her after they escape Winterfell, she seems very thankful of Theon and all that Theon has done for her, despite all the shitty things that Theon has done. Excuse me. And you'll have to edit those out.
I will not.
They weren't even good enough to be kept in. They're like,
I know, but I'm trying to
tiny.
count to 80 every time that you burp. To just make sure that is your average.
No, you need to like take it like based on how long we're here, and then multiply that by how long the day is.
So your
like,
average in this recording session,
Yeah.
extrapolated to. All right.
and we're also drinking, so it might be a little above average.
All right.
But back to the topic at hand. Like,
ahead.
Sansa is very emotional when saying goodbye to Theon after he's rescued her. So I'm not surprised that like after she's been to Winterfell, after she's made it her home again, to see Theon coming to defend Winterfell as if it's his home too.
It is.
And it is.
Yeah. I mean, how much of that do you think is guilt?
I'm sure some of it is, but a lot of it is like the conversation that he had with Jon at the very end. He like, I'm a Stark, but I'm also a Greyjoy kind of thing. And like you see that he rescues his sister, gets his sister going to the Iron Islands, and he's going to deal with his Stark side now and probably die next episode.
Oh, it's the completion of his arc.
Yeah.
Oh boy, there were a lot of completions this episode, or at least closures.
Oh,
What?
nothing.
There were closures this episode,
It's a
which
better word.
does mean,
I think I get the joke you're trying to make.
which does mean that a lot of people are going to die next episode. We'll get to that. Anyway, going back to Sansa and Dany, right? I did appreciate how Dany was willing to confront Sansa about the tension, because there's so much, like, especially just in real life, like if something awkward happens or there's a pink elephant in the room, more often than not, the easiest route is to just let it be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more uncomfortable to confront it. I appreciated that Dany was willing to confront that stuff. And I don't know. I just really like that. I don't know if you guys thought anything of that or not.
I don't think Dany was willing to confront it. She just wanted to go try to manipulate Sansa into being
She
more
brought
on
it
her
up,
side.
though.
Yeah, but as soon as Sansa actually brought up a sticking point, didn't go well.
Okay, which sticking
Yeah.
point?
What actually happens to the North in terms of the governmental system after the war is over?
They got interrupted. I mean, that's been Dany's thing this season so
See,
far.
but I think
interrupted.
I think Daenerys was trying to play the family card to get them on the same side, because she does want to make friends, and I think Sansa is willing to trust Daenerys, just not yet. Not until she knows. Like, she's willing to trust Daenerys because I think that scene, she realizes that both her and Daenerys care deeply about Jon. But I think Sansa doesn't. She makes sure that she does not forget that even though like we both love Jon, she's still trying to be queen of a place that we tried to make independent.
Okay, yeah, that's true, and I wish they hadn't gotten interrupted. I would have liked to see the resolution of that.
But I'm glad that they did, because, well, I can't say I'm glad, but I'm not surprised, because it seems like they've been kind of obfuscating. I can't even say the word right.
Obfuscating, something like that.
What does that mean?
Obscuring.
Okay.
They're kind of obscuring the motives or plans of these characters, at least for their plans for ruling Westeros after the Battle of the Undead. So we don't know like what their plans for Westeros are going to be. Like, Daenerys might want to be, I'm going to be the next dictator and dictator for life or whatever, or like they all die, and then like Davos Seaworth starts like the first Republic of Westeros or something like that.
with layers of leadership.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. The Onion democracy.
Okay, so Drogo versus Snow. Who is a better lover for Danny?
I mean, Jason Momoa. You can't go wrong.
He's a tall man, if you know what I mean.
Because Danny made this comment, that she's only known one other man to be faithful to or truthful to his word, and Tensei was like, what was he like, or who was he, or whatever, and she was like,
He's a lot taller.
Oh, which is like, have you guys, just not to go off too much, but have you guys like heard or read the stereotype that about women on Tinder or whatever? How, you know how guys are all concerned about like, hey, how much do you weigh? And that's what they'll ask on Tinder or dating apps or whatever. And then girls, on the other hand, they'll be like, how tall are you? Right? And this is like a way weird version of that, I think. But that was just, it made me think of that. Okay, and yes, you brought up the thing about Sansa asking, what about the North? Right? What do you guys think? Let's say that everything goes well. Dany survives. Everyone, that matters survives. Take that as you will. What would Dany do? What do you guys think Dany could do?
Well, I haven't even wasted time thinking about it, because I don't even think Daenerys is going to get anywhere close to the Iron Throne. Well, physically maybe, but I don't think she's going to be ruling.
Okay. Yeston?
I don't know. I don't know who's gonna die.
Okay.
What if Dany dies and then it's Jon Snow and he's forced into a leader position that he never wanted? But
Well, that's never happened this show.
I know.
Well, I don't know. Hey, have you guys heard of this YouTube channel called Yes? No, it's like alternate history. Something like that.
Alternate History Hub or whatever?
Something like that. I forget
Something like that.
the actual name, but it just speculates about what could have happened had this important part of history gone a different way. And I like to speculate. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen, right? But that's why it's speculation right now. I like to think that Dany is going to leave the North alone.
Interesting.
But that's just wishful thinking. I don't think it's within her character to do that. She wants to rule all 7 kingdoms, not rule 6 kingdoms.
I do feel like that's being set up, though, like I said, with her observation of Sansa and Theon. And then later at the very end of the episode, when she's like asking about the history of Winterfell, when she's in the crypt with Jon. So maybe it's her recognition of the culture that she's sort of maybe stomping all over, and now she's made aware of that.
Would she be stomping on it or just collect taxes on it? I mean,
see, I'd like to see Daenerys slowly come to, like, presumably after the battle for the night, or whatever we're calling this battle.
Undead, whatever.
Battle of Winterfell, I guess.
2. No?
3?
Is it? Yeah.
Winter's Fall.
Okay.
I'm really hoping that we get to see, assuming that we stay there long enough, to see Daenerys kind of appreciate the North's unique identity.
But she doesn't have to eradicate that identity to
No, I don't think so.
rule it.
I don't think so, no.
So are the Northerners just being
But I feel
silly?
like that's part of their identity, is the fact that they have been maybe subjugated in the past, and they're sort of trying to free themselves of that and gain independence.
See, I'm thinking if like
It's
they
Scotland.
can work out a deal like with Dorne has, because like Dorne, they still have princes. Like,
now that's kind of along what Yeston's saying, though. That kind of falsehood or that kind of like mock title
yeah,
would not suit them, I don't think. They're totally Scotland, the North.
oh yeah. They can't decide. Like they want to be independent. They don't want to be independent. Depends on who the leader is.
Yeah.
Makes
freaking
sense.
Jon Snow.
And I'll tie back to that alternate history stuff later for our Off the Throne.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So the little girl defends the crypt. I thought that was a nice
You mean
sort of what?
I said you mean the little girl that's gonna be a white next episode?
The crypt is the
I don't
safest
want
place
that.
in Winterfell.
It's like there is no war outside these walls. That's an Avatar.
There is no
I got
war
that
in
one.
there is no war in Bossing Say.
Yeah.
That's what
Get
it
the
is.
quote right.
Come on, Arturo.
Even I know that.
All right. The
That-
Earth King invites. Go on.
That was a sad thing because she was reminding Davos of
Shireen.
Yeah, but I mean,
She
it's
had that burn
also
on her face.
that too. It's also like a good commentary on, like, no, Shawn, don't eat the microphone. It's also like a good commentary on, like, the woes of war, if you will. You know, because she had two brothers, and like her family's gone, and like she wants to, I guess, help keep the memory of her siblings alive by fighting. But she doesn't really know what she's getting into by saying she wants to fight. Of course, any sensible adult is not going to let her take up arms, right? But I just saw that as like a little truth moment about what fighting actually is.
Yeah, and we also get that with the soldier beforehand, or the pedestrian beforehand, saying
He's
like,
I'm not a soldier, man.
yeah, we're not a soldier, we're not trained for this, but at this point it doesn't matter.
And
Like,
that's just the case with any war that really happens.
Yeah.
Where it's down to like where you're desperate.
they talk about in the sort of, I guess, behind the scenes on this episode, how they really wanted to portray the normal people within Winterfell, not just the main characters. So with the set design and with like, how do they get their food? How are they preparing? Where are they getting their weapons? All of this stuff. And they kind of wanted to portray that. And I think that's a sign of that, how they're, you know, maybe addressing this idea that you always follow the main characters and maybe they die, but you never think about like the hundreds and hundreds of others that are involved in those battles. And they sort of wanted to bring light to a tiny bit of that.
It was a nice moment. Well, not nice. It was a good moment.
Yeah.
I'll say.
There is, isn't there Grey Worm and Missandei?
No, that's later.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I think that's
Sorry.
right after.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the racist little kids.
I told you they were going to do
Okay,
racism.
That scene,
I told you.
I think, was pretty blatant. I think
Yeah.
the one in the first episode was just them being wary of outsiders.
I thought I called it racism.
I don't remember.
I think both of you did last week, and I didn't think it was.
Okay.
But this
They-
week
oh yeah,
was
they totally went with it, like,
Yeah.
very bluntly.
like looks at her, takes her sister, like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
walks away.
Sean, there's a microphone. In
I
front of me.
know. I was moving away to
There's
to
the
do
effect.
motions.
See, Sean, what you don't realize is that people listening to this can't actually see you.
Yeah, but they'll hear me get away and imagine me doing things and visualizations.
And see, I tried to do that when I was editing my first episode, and by like panning left audio, right
Oh
audio.
God.
But
Anyway,
apparently people don't like don't like you
No.
taking control of where the conversation is
No,
happening.
Lord.
Tormund and Jon, that's my ship.
Tormund and Jon.
No, Tormund's already said that John has a small pecker.
Well, I mean, I never said that Jon had to be the top,
Okay. All right.
and I
but
bet,
Arya does.
I bet. Ooh.
More on that later.
I'm just saying. I bet Tormund, when his giant's milk, you know, he's well equipped.
We're getting to the memes part, guys. You can skip this now. Just kidding. So Tormund, Ed, and Beric deliver the news of the last hearth, right? And then like that scene ends with Tormund being like, "Is the big woman still here?" But this is where we get the Night's Watch reunited, and Ed is such a good character. I
Yeah.
hope he survives. He won't. I hope he does. But it is nostalgic to look back at where they started. I mean, this episode has been a lot about like just seeing where characters have started and how they've progressed throughout the series. We haven't seen much of Ed.
No, we haven't. But I'm glad we do.
Yeah. But all the other main characters, you can kind of reflect back on this episode and see the progression,
But I mean,
that's nice.
Yeah, but I mean, you can still remember like the back of the days. Like Ed was like, I do like the fact that they keep the same actors, even through the most of the minor roles, even the ones that become major roles later on.
Like Beric.
Yeah,
He was not the same actor.
I'm pretty sure he was.
Beric Dondarrion? Mm-mm.
Was that
His first introduction was in season 1 when he is in front of the.
I know, but
Of
that
the
was
Iron
before he
Throne.
had. That was before he got his iPad. Maybe I just.
That's definitely a
That
different
could be
actor.
why. Maybe
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's got an eye patch. He's clearly a different person.
Because like
Clearly the same
he's
guy.
commanded to go sniff out the
Mhm.
mountain, and then he gets all like messed up and caught up in the like fire
Yeah.
religion. But it's definitely a different actor. I remember because I was very into like the fire priestesses religion, and I
Mhm.
looked up what was going on because I was like, that's an interesting little side arc. But yeah, I did come across that information that is a different actor. So should John be leading? I mean, I'm asking this because at the Battle of the Bastards, he did not have a real plan. The other bastard, Ramsay, did have a good battle plan, and it should have worked out for him in all fairness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they pulled a Lord of the Rings, which they like to do a lot in this show,
Yeah.
and they had the Knights of the Vale just swoop down and save everybody, right? Which I didn't really like. But since John had no real battle plan, if you remember at the Battle of the Bastards, he was just like, we just got to do this.
Mhm.
We just got to go right in.
Well, his plan was if we hold the line and we don't like charge into them, we should stand a chance. And the first thing he does is charge into them after they kill his brother.
Right. But he, like, beyond that, he didn't have a plan. I mean, Ramsay, he had a couple layers of the plan, right? Of a plan. And anyway, I'm asking, should he be the one formulating the battle plan?
I think that because of the first battle we see him in, it because of his limited resources, and I don't think we see him in his full extent as a battle commander.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that now that we see him and he's consulting, mind you, the first time he didn't consult with the people around him. Now he's consulting with like pretty much everyone at that table, like coordinating the defenses. I think that's kind of shown a bit of a step in his character from the last time we've seen him at a strategy table at the very least.
He's less hot-headed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's more open to hearing other suggestions, like more open to like, well, what are you guys be doing? What are you like? He's listening to Bran's suggestions.
It's funny for someone that doesn't want a leadership role to like that should be his default, to listen to everybody's suggestions and take everything into account because he doesn't want a leadership role. At least I think, because for someone that craves power, that might be their default, not to listen to anybody. And that's what he did at the beginning with the Battle of the Bastards.
See,
right?
but maybe that's just him not knowing how to be in charge.
Okay. You have anything to add, Yestin?
I agree with him.
But not me.
Yep.
Yeah, screw you.
All right. Why did I write "is death being forgotten"?
Because Sam waxes philosophical about the nature of death and how the Night King apparently wants to kill Bran because he is this world's history or something like that.
This world's
Oh.
And it's like, this doesn't feel like it belongs in a tactical war meeting.
It's way more like a podcast meeting.
Yeah. I was like, Sam, you should start your own Game of Thrones podcast.
Well, I forgot why I wrote that, but now I remember.
But I think that one detail, the fact that the Night King wants Bran,
That's important.
I think that's probably the most important thing that we're going to get out of this episode.
I agree.
In terms of value for next episode and big foreshadowing for next episode.
Yeah.
Other than like the character redemptions and the false redemptions and the false like whatever, I think the biggest information that will come from this episode will be the fact that the Night King wants Bran.
You know, we've kind of mentioned that next episode there will be a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah.
I don't think so.
No?
No. Because it's going to be a battle. There's not going to be... I mean, this is a culmination of the plot.
Okay.
It's a lot of action.
I should say there'll be a lot more to speculate about after next episode.
I say that because I think we should all watch it together. Like this time, finally.
No, I want to watch it on my headphones. I'm sorry.
Wow.
think
I am down for a rewatch the day of recording though.
Let's figure it out.
I would be worried about having an episode that is entirely battle, but they have done this in the past and it's been pretty good. And I think that there's gonna be character moments and consequences within this action scene that they have that is going to keep it interesting. And the things that have happened in this episode, the relationships the characters have built up, will be important at least at that point.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say, not every battle episode of Game of Thrones is all battle, but now that I think about it, like, the enemy is at the gates. Spoiler. The enemy is at the gates at the end of this episode. Like, there isn't too much pre-battled for them to show. Like, they've pretty much showed it all. Like, now
What do you mean?
because normally, like, if you think back, say, the Battle of Castle Black, where that episode was pretty much just all at Castle Black.
Okay.
Them defending... correct me if I'm wrong, but that and or say the Battle of Blackwater, they're focusing on building up to this battle for the whole season, and then the episode that the battle is in, they show like the characters preparing to like on each side usually, because we're following both sides. They'll show like the characters getting ready, like a few scenes of them getting ready, and then the main meat of the the unbroken scene is generally the battle. But for this next episode, like they've already done most of that, is what I'm saying. That's kind of what this entire episode was.
Okay.
The next episode, like, they're either gonna have to start with like the like, I guess they're gonna have to start with them like running at the wall or something. Cause like,
Do you think they'll have a cold open?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, I'm pretty sure they'll do I'm pretty sure they'll do like the intro, like all that.
Like first.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think
But-
it would be a good idea to have a cold open because there's less introduction that you can do, like he's saying. They just
Okay.
have to get right into it.
So Bran is marked as bait, right?
Bran is bait.
And that's going to be where maybe the climax of next episode is going to be. I don't want to get into predictions really right now.
Yeah, it's
but
really hard not to, like, especially with this episode that's so building up towards the next episode. It's hard not to.
It's creating expectations.
Yeah.
Right? And everyone's expectations is going to be a little bit different.
Well, I'm saying it's hard to talk about these current scenes without talking about what you think they're going to lead to next episode.
Because it is all preparation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could just start now then. I mean, I cut Yestin off.
I'm interested in what
No.
Yestin was going to say. Oh,
no,
okay.
let we've got to go through the scenes. Bran is going to be bait. It's going to be a disaster.
My thought is like there's going to be the thick of the battle, and then like obviously there's going to be something like there's a stop in the motion, and that's when like the Night King finds his way into.
Yestin wants to leave that into prediction.
It's gonna cut to Bran, and it's gonna be quiet, and you can hear the battle sounds in the distance. And then Theon's gonna be with him, and Bran's gonna be creeping him out. It's gonna be great.
Okay, I think we can do a little bit of predictions then.
I love how Theon was like, "I'll protect you." And it's like, what are you gonna do?
Well, I did like that parallel. Because way back in episode 1, you have Theon protecting Bran in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
And
I didn't even think of that. Yeah. That's nice. That's a nice full circle. Okay. So the crypt, right?
The crypt.
The crypt is the safest place in Winterfell.
Are you talking about like just the place itself, or the conversation between Jon and Daenerys in the crypt?
Not that yet.
Okay.
That's like the very end of the
All right.
episode. But the crypt is going to be, I mean, maybe they won't do what we think they're going to do, which is raise the dead in the crypt. and then have the dead attack from the inside? Do you think that's going to happen?
My theory, the theory that I like, but I don't necessarily think is going to happen because they haven't, I guess, nudged on this specific card in the show. In the book, it talks about how there is a secret passage that leads out of Winterfell through the crypts.
Okay.
And it's mentioned in Bran's chapter, in Bran's chapters, like occasional enough to make people think that it'll play a
That it
plot
matters.
point, and it might in the books. But I would love to see if it played a point in the show, because this is getting into like backstory, but the theory behind at least this Night's King is that he essentially, the long and short of it, before he was a White Walker, he seduced the Lord Stark's last female heir. Like the Lord Stark only had one heir, and it was a female.
Okay.
The story goes that he seduced her under the disguise of a bard coming into Winterfell. He seduced her. She disappeared, and then like 9 months later, she reappears back in her room with a baby. And the theory was that this baby like was raised in the Winterfell crypts, and like he was able to get in and out, or like his secret father was able to get in and out through the secret Winterfell crypt tunnels.
That is a detailed backstory.
Yeah.
Wait, did that actually happen, or is that like like a myth within the lore?
That's a backstory, or it's one of those ancient songs. I feel bad because like you asked me about something, and then I have to explain some other random Game of Thrones thing. Do you remember in season 2 when Ygritte references Bale the Bard? That is supposedly the bard that sneaks into the
crypts.
The crypts.
And which is the Night King?
Which is supposedly the Night King, and his son became the Lord Stark.
So there's a bloodline.
Yeah.
Blood tie.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to go that deep in the show?
No.
I don't think so, only because if the Night King had more intensive backstory, I think we might have seen it. Unless we're going to get some like battle flashbacks from Bran, like we just see Bran in the Godwood, like eyes rolled back, and he's like looking, trying to find, okay, what did the Night's King do? How did the Night's King get here? How can I stop the Night's King?
On the
That's more prediction.
I feel like Bran would predict the Night King raising everyone from the dead if that was actually what's going to happen.
Okay, that's one thing I'm curious about. Does Bran have predictive powers, or I thought he was just like a memory card?
That's what I did too, and he seems to sort of predict the future. I just felt like that was just based on data that he was collecting.
Yeah, it seems to sound like that it's been a bit unclear. It seems to sound like he can see the future, and if he can, then I mean, you got to wonder if he's like seeing the future or a future or one of many, or like.
Okay.
And how soon can he observe the past? Like, can he observe what happened just 2 minutes ago if it's in a different location? Stuff like that. I don't know. It seems a little unclear.
Yeah, I guess it is.
About the crypt. Last night he had dreamt the Winterfell dream again. He was wandering the empty castle, searching for his father, descending into the crypts. Only this time the dream had gone further than before. In the dark he'd heard the scrape of stone on stone. When he turned, he saw that the vaults were opening one after the other, as the dead kings came stumbling from their cold black graves. Jon had woken in pitch dark, his heart hammering, even when and then it goes on.
Yeah.
So
Was this in the show?
this was in the book.
That's in the book.
Yeah.
It's
Excuse
a
me?
nightmare that Jon has.
So I feel like that's what they're going to be drawing from, and I definitely think that that's going to, and maybe they'll use the secret passages, but just as some sort of escape route for the people that are under the crypt, and the people that end up being in the crypt that we have like gotten to know will actually play some importance there.
I have another thing I'm going to throw. What if the dead rise from the crypt, but they're fighting for the Starks because they are the Stark dead,
And the North remembers.
The North remembers. The dead fight the dead, maybe. Maybe
That'd be
because
interesting.
do you guys watch the end of episode premiere of next episode?
I do not.
Okay.
I don't watch the previews.
Yeah, he's got this weird thing.
All right. Well, close your ears for. It's not like I mean these don't spoil anything.
It's fine.
But it like shows one. It shows like these scenes, and like one of them is a quote of Dany saying, "The dead are already here," and I'm wondering if that's like her either referring to the fact that the dead are currently in front of Winterfell.
I think that's
two,
what it is.
the dead are inside Winterfell, or three, she's referring to Jon because like she's angry at Jon because he's now the heir.
Side note, I think that it would be really cool if Cersei was killed by a reanimated mountain.
Oh, isn't he already?
Yeah, reanimated.
But what if, because he is dead, what if the Night King could take control of him and he just turns and just breaks Cersei's neck?
But I thought he was like a non-magical kind of undead.
I have seen this debated. How much is it science or magic that's brought him back? And I don't remember what the conclusion of the video I was watching. This was the channel that you recommended in the first episode of this series.
Bridge 4.
Justin has gotten a lot out of that channel.
Good channel.
So, Tormund likes to hit on Brienne. Are we not touching on that yet, Justin? You seem to have something else.
Well, we missed a scene.
Did we?
Yeah, the scene where the three Night's Watch brothers are on the wall with Ghost.
You know, Sam has stolen a considerable amount of books from the Citadel.
Yeah.
And he is the real hero.
Yeah.
So he will be writing the Song of Ice.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think Sam will live. Bless you. I think Sam's gonna live at least past next episode.
So yeah, I mean, Tormund picks up Brienne. I mean, look, he tries to pick up Brienne. And that man just does not know when to quit. I think that's a very relatable thing.
To an admiral degree.
I like that he respects her though. Like when she gets knighted, he's so happy.
Yeah, he was like cheering for her.
I would have thought, Yeston, that you would have thought that is not within his character being a wildling and not adhering to these Westerosi culture.
Well, and you could argue that it shouldn't be in Brienne's character either, that she should sort of neglect the traditions of the world that she was raised in because they don't accept her. But she doesn't, and he recognizes that that's an important thing to her, and he respects her.
Fair enough. I move on.
I have nothing to add.
Yeah, did him. So, Jon was being awkward with Dany before he told her.
Oh,
Giving her the cold shoulder.
Shawn, you were hoping that trope would be avoided.
Well. First of all, we were missing a very important scene before this.
Okay.
What do we think of Arya Gendry?
Whoa! That is not before that.
That is before the Jon Snow and Daenerys reveal.
I put that after for some reason.
He's just talking about the way Jon's acting throughout the episode, not the conversation in the crypt.
I see that. Because you were right. Because Jon talks about with Sam about how he's putting it off.
Yeah.
My bad.
I'm pretty chronological, my friend.
Yeah, I need a drink more.
Less. And that trope was definitely executed for a hot minute there. You don't think so? During the going back a little bit towards the meeting room, right? when it's all over, then he kind of looks to him longingly, and then he's like looking sideways, go away.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
He's definitely avoiding her for the first, like, all of this episode.
But I feel like what you had previously expressed concern over was the possibility that they would just have them not address the relationship, which they have, but now there's a new element, which is that John knows the truth.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's not quite the same thing. Like now it's just that he knows he needs to tell her. And of course, being a Stark, he tells her at the worst possible time.
I liked that was my favorite comment.
Yeah.
Like, John might be a Targaryen, but he's a Stark because he tells Daenerys at the worst possible moment.
Yeah. So
Wait, what were the other instances of Starks saying things at bad moments?
like Ned was just so blatant with what the information that he was finding and so untactile.
Last time he sees John, I'll tell you about your mother the next time we meet.
Oh, I see. I remember that now. Okay. So people are just leaving Bran laying around.
And finally Tyrion is like, do you need any help?
So
Tyrion is the only one.
Why don't you tell me your story? We've got time.
But yeah, why is that so? Because everyone just leaves the war meeting, and then Bran is just at the war meeting still.
Does he not have a designated pusher?
Well, let's not talk about Hodor.
Oh.
Hey, maybe he'll get Hodor back after next episode.
Oh God. He's gonna warg into undead Hodor.
Yeah.
And then Tyrion just talks to Bran, and like, presumably, I read about this theory that he kind of pulls a Doctor Strange. Bless you.
Doctor
does?
Strange.
And also, I've never seen Doctor Strange, so
No. Avengers. Have you watched Avengers?
I've watched the movie called The Avengers, the one that came out in
Like 2 years
2012.
ago? A year ago?
The first one.
I'm talking about Ultron. No, not Ultron.
No, I haven't.
Fucking hell. Avengers.
I have not seen it, no.
Basically what they do is they have Doctor Strange look into the future and like observe millions of possible outcomes.
Okay.
And he says there's only like one where we win. But then would they kind of use that as an excuse for bad writing, because it's like, well, he had to make it work that way because he saw the way that they would win and he had to do this. So
Yeah, but also it's a character knowing what's going to happen. And again, this ties back into what are Bran's actual powers? Can he see the future? And since that is a little bit unclear, I think it's fair to be able to speculate here.
well, and later Tyrion says that he thinks that they might win, and he was very much not thinking that before he talked to Bran.
Yeah, that's where I was going to tie it back
Yeah.
into. So, what do we think, guys?
As in,
Like, is this a Doctor Strange situation where Tyrion now knows what's going to happen?
I think I think Bran, if Bran can't outright see the future, I'm thinking it's more of he has the ability to look into everybody's plans to essentially figure out what they want to do and what they plan on doing. And the fact that he can see pretty much everything, presumably everything happening at the present, as he has said, if he can see it in real time, then I think that might, like, he might be able to use that to formulate, predict, I guess.
Like a supercomputer?
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe he doesn't know the future, but he has a better idea of what might happen.
Maybe.
After that, we see Missandei and Grey Worm, which is a useless scene.
Who
Yeah,
cares?
But it does foreshadow, like, heavily that Grey Worm's going to die.
Oh, yeah.
Because he makes all these promises, and clearly, that's not going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Then we move on to, John hasn't told Dany. There's a scene where, like, that's the scene where he kind of just is awkward with her, and then he leaves. After that, I put, Ghost is going to die. Do we agree?
No.
You don't think so? No. He's the last direwolf of the Starks.
Okay, he might die. I think he might. Yeah. If he does die, he's going to die next episode. But if he doesn't die next episode, I think he'll live through the series.
Here's an English teacher perspective,
Okay.
right? So, John has accepted he's a Targaryen and has kind of left behind his Stark cloak.
See, but I disagree with that. only because the conversation that he had with Theon in the last episode of the previous season, where he tells Theon that he can be both a Stark and a Greyjoy. And I think that's very fitting that he has that conversation with Theon, the same episode that they reveal to the audience that Jon is actually the son of Lyanna and Rhaegar.
And then he has the conversation with Arya, who tells him not to forget that he's their family.
Yeah, I think that's more poignant to the current story.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of saying, hey, don't forget, like, when you know, like, obviously it's foreshadowing, but when you find out that you're not a Stark by blood, well, in last name,
heritage,
then you get, like, will you remember? You got to remember, like, you're still a Stark by blood too, you know.
Yeah, so maybe Ghost won't die because Jon disowns his Stark heritage, but now he gets Rhaegar, or what? Rhaegon? What's the dragon's name?
Rhaegal? Yeah, Viserion is the one that died. Rhaegal is the one that Jon rides.
Yeah.
And Drogon is the one that...
So maybe now, you know, he has both Rhaegal and Ghost because he's both a Targaryen and a Stark. Like I said, English teacher perspective. So Sam is a badass, and he's really turned around from his introduction of his character back in season 1, right? Because this is the point where they say, look, you've done all these things,
but Sam's got laid.
That is his biggest turnaround. And then we get, like, you know, the drinking party.
Yeah.
Around the fireplace.
Gather around the
campfire. The whole story with Tormund and the giant's milk. I wonder what that says about life beyond the wall. Like if it can spit out a creature such as Tormund.
I mean,
sorry, that kind of like just wrecked the mic there. Or Tormund is just telling his tall tale.
Oh yeah, that's not actually true.
Oh, you never know it, Mike.
It's not.
If it could be true for any character, it would be true for Tormund. I mean, there should be a little book called Tormund's Tall Tales.
But it's kind of like, but I do kind of see it like how right before the battle at Castle Black, how Tormund was telling Ygritte how he f***ed a bear or whatever.
Yeah, I just love the way he like chugs his milk, and everyone's just kind of looking at him like,
That's a beer.
No, it's milk, isn't it? I think it's goat's milk is what it's supposed to be.
Fermented goat's milk.
Yeah.
But I mean, when offered a drink, he just said he has his own.
That was good, and we finally get to see the reunion of Tyrion and wine.
Oh yes. Which, by the way, Tyrion has always had this joke that he's about to tell. He didn't do it here. I was hoping he would. I don't remember how it goes. I meant to look it up.
It sounded like I once took a honeycomb and an ass into a brothel. Or something like that.
It gets interrupted. I was hoping that was going to happen here, just to like.
I'd like to see that. Yeah.
Maybe that's how they'll end the series. Don't laugh too hard there, Shawn. The Hound has also grown a lot as a character, and you see that through his interaction with Arya, which is very nice to see. I think because like it was a little up in the air from what we discussed last episode, but like he's definitely happy to see Arya.
Yeah,
and to see how much she's grown and survived. His scene with Beric was funny, where he was like, "I'm going to throw you off this wall," and then we get to the worst part of this whole episode.
You can tell the impact this has had because we mentioned this part several times leading up to this.
I know. Okay. It's Arya's sex scene with Gendry.
Forged sex, man.
Okay, I'd like to take a second and just talk about before the sex scene, the weapon that she is given. Okay. I like the fact that it's kind of a callback to her time in Braavos when she was the blind girl with nothing but the staff.
Oh,
now she has a similar weapon ready to kill the White Walkers.
It's a weapon that can be kind of broken in half or like dismantled.
That's what it looked like
In the
based on the
blueprints.
diagram. That, like, I wish she had like inspected it more in that scene and gotten her hands on that rod instead of a different one.
She had other intentions.
She had other intentions.
Yeah, but I don't like Arya being sexualized. The show does not do a very good job.
You are not alone. Did you see?
I was going to talk about how, because I was talking about this the day after I watched it. We were talking about how very, I guess, careful they've been, or I guess modest they've been with the sex scenes that involved like the characters that were kids when the show started, like Arya and Sansa. Arya, they were able to be a little bit more graphic with because it's more consensual. I believe that's the only reason that we saw any of like side boob or anything there.
Okay.
Because it wasn't like the horror show that was like Sansa's sex scene.
Did you see the tweet that HBO put out before the episode came out?
Oh
No.
yeah.
What was it? I didn't see
By
this.
age 18 in Westeros, you should have had a pet, moved out on your own, traveled extensively, had a kill list, pretended to be the opposite sex to evade capture, been blind for a while, ticked at least three people off your kill list. So they're saying Arya's definitely 18 in the show, just so you know. It's not weird.
There was also a spike in searches for for Maisie Williams' age.
You were not the only one made uncomfortable by this scene.
It was an uncomfortable thing because, again, I was saying that the show doesn't do a very good job of showing how much time has passed. So even though it has been years in real life and years in the Game of Thrones universe, it doesn't feel like that.
There is something about the fact that she starts the show when she's 11.
Yeah.
That
I thought in the books, I thought Arya was like 9.
But the actor started when she was 11.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But she is younger in the books, or she's presumed to be younger in the show when she first starts.
She looks very young.
And that's another thing. She still does look very young.
This is my favorite meme.
Oh no!
Scene.
What are you showing him?
A few moments later.
Oh yeah, I saw. So the meme is that, and I was gonna mention this, but I thought it would be gross. Arya initially went to the Hound, but she was blocked by what's his face? Yeah.
Oh no, I don't think
She
so.
should have gone to.
No, that was a joke.
Yeah, she should have gone. She should have gone to Pod the Rod.
to iPod after this episode.
All right, so do we want to move on to talk about the scene with Daenerys and Jon in the crypts now? The implications of that earth-shattering scene.
I want to go back a little bit.
All right, you want to talk about her boobs?
Yeah, let's talk about Arya's
no.
boobs.
No. Right before that, Arya mentions some battles, right? Like Whispering Wood.
What?
No, I'm sorry. Not
That's
Arya.
during the drinking.
Tyrion
Right.
mentioned.
I'm
Jamie
sorry.
mentioned.
We skipped knighting Brienne. How dare
did.
we?
Well, technically that was after the sex scene.
That's true.
So, suck a d- yes. Swallow
Wow.
a sword.
Um,
I'm sorry. I got my wires crossed there. Yes. Whispering Wood, that was at the drinking fire thing. That was talking about Rob,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I like that callback. I liked Rod's idea. Rob, not Rod's. That's Pod the Rod. iPod. And then Brienne becomes a knight, which is so forward thinking. And then I put at the same time, kind of a silly ceremony. Brienne got Tyrion. Tormund agreed with the ceremony. That's weird for a wildling, but he's probably just happy for Brienne.
I enjoyed that scene. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No,
I like that scene.
I think Brienne deserves it. Like,
For sure. And it was fitting that it was Jamie who gave it to her, right? Although was it though? Because he's kind of a disgraced knight.
No, I think that Jamie, in a sense, was the only one who could have given it to her, because she kind of reminded him what it was to be a knight.
Oh, and like an honorable person.
Yeah.
Okay.
And especially, this is calling back to the first scene of the episode where Jamie is like, this is beyond loyalty, and he looks at her based on what she said in in the last episode of the previous season, where in the dragon pit, where she was going up to Jamie saying, "This is beyond loyalty. This is beyond houses." This is,
that's good.
And I like that callback. The fact that he he looked at her and like acknowledged her to her, because obviously she would be the only one who knew it. That he's made this choice because of the reasons that she has given him. Because
yeah. So Jorah and Leanne have a cousin confrontation, and a lot of people wanted to see this. Yes. I wanted a little bit more, to be honest, because like Leanne is just a joy to watch, I think.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys think she will survive?
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, finally the confrontation I've been waiting for.
No.
I mean, I think she's minor enough where I don't think the outcome of the story matters.
I think it would be really.
So it could go either way.
I think she will die in like the most badass way.
Really?
Yep, that's my theory.
Either way, I'm good with either one of those.
I did like the post in Free Folk that was like something about her just surviving because she's so angry all the time. Like she's too angry to die.
Then Sam gives Jorah his family sword, which is Valyrian steel, so he's going to be killing some White Walkers. And he then references Jorah's father, who was an honorable man, and you know, it's always nice whenever he gets brought up.
Who taught Sam Sorry, I was trying to burp away from the mic. Who taught Sam to become an honorable man? Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, I'd like to lightly touch on Jorah's past, why he was disowned and dishonored as a knight. Shawn, take it away.
He was selling slaves.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's pretty well. His wife was she preferred the fancy things in life.
Okay.
And even though he was the son of a lord, Bear Island is not a very wealthy place.
Right.
As you could imagine, with a small island in the frozen seas. So he took to selling slaves, and he was caught. And for that, Ned Stark wanted his head, and he instead
Spanished him.
Yeah, he instead just ran away.
Oh, I see.
And in exchange for a pardon, he would spy on Daenerys for the spider.
I remember that now. Okay. Now, the wine party should totally be a podcast. Like, they should have all kinds of conversations in an infinite amount of time around that fire, and then they should make that into a podcast.
That was the coziest scene. It was so good.
Likes cozy.
Pod's dank song.
Ooh,
that's why I call him the iPod.
yeah.
I didn't get that for a second. I didn't realize. Yeah.
I think I saw that
like
somewhere.
that.
We didn't touch on the fact that Ed Sheeran was burnt up by the dragon.
Oh yeah.
That was last episode.
Yeah, because the whores are talking about it with Braun, but no one
cares. You
cares.
got the name right.
But no one cares about Ed Sheeran anymore. It's all about Pod.
Pod is great at everything.
I love Pod. I like how proud Brienne looks of him when he's training the guy with the sword. But then Jamie comes up and she's like, he's got a lot to learn.
So now we know why the girls love Pod, because he just lulls them to sleep with his beautiful voice. Then we get finally to the crypt scene that we've been kind of hinting at. Jon is the king of sulking because he's just at the crypts all the time.
I love how during the song they pan around to everyone, and like Sansa's with Theon and everyone's got someone, and then it's Jon just alone,
brooding the way that Jon knows how to do.
Jon is the brood king. He would be Batman if he wasn't in Westeros. And he's done this since season 1, you know, like at the, like when,
even before he got to the wall, when he's traveling with Tyrion, like in episode 1, he was out there in the courtyard banging on the practice dummy.
That was at the feast. Yeah. That wasn't entirely his fault, like his choosing, but he's just always been out.
Things were so simple back then.
Yeah.
Then
Like
Danny,
Tyrion says. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He does say that. Then Danny finally finds out about John, and a lot of people said that it was a very well delivered news.
Yeah.
Like he definitely delivered it well. It was very cinematic, actually, the way she said it.
I'm glad the way they said it the way they said it. I think if he were to go like, who is that? Like he's looking at Liana's statue and he's like, oh, that's my mom. I think that would have just ruined it.
That's me, mom.
That's me, mom.
And then Danny doubts it, even though he's ridden a dragon, which we kind of touched on last episode.
See, but I understand why she would doubt it. Like, it makes sense because the only people who the evidence are coming from are his best friend and his brother. Now, mind you, she doesn't know the extent that Bran has changed from the person that Bran was. So John knows kind of that this isn't the Bran that he left.
Yeah.
So he kind of understands that this Bran has other Branly powers.
Right.
And,
it's like an off brand.
But yeah.
Jesus, this is what the wine does.
I'll drink to that.
My God.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one.
This is gonna make our listeners go up or
one
deter
time.
them.
Yeah,
100%.
probably. But John knows that that's not the real Bran in there. Daenerys doesn't really know that. She just knows that John's brother, like Bran, has got some weird stuff going on, and somehow he knows that her dragon died and the Night King's on their way.
Yeah, but I mean, she kind of dismisses the fact that he knows.
And I think because that's how John acted at first. Like when he just got the information, he dismisses it, but then like after time he knows it's true. And I think the if we don't see Daenerys going through that is it true, is it not true thing, then I think that after the battle that might be one of the most foremost issues before Cersei even is on the battlefield. I think episode 4 is going to be a lot of the infighting between
Whatever
the
is
survivors. Yeah.
Because the first thing she does is bring up John being the last male heir and his possible.
Yeah. Not the fact that he's she's his aunt and they've been banging.
Yeah, I mean, she's just like, oh, that's what Targaryens do.
Yeah.
But her first thought is, God damn it, that's my throne.
Do I have to bleep out God damn it?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Okay.
What if I said God's damn it? Then it fits in.
That's true. We should say that. And like how in Battlestar Galactica they say frack. Yeah.
I've
No?
never played it, but I
It's not a
get the
game.
concept.
Shawn. Wait. How have you not seen these important shows?
That's not a show. I thought you were talking
That's not a
about.
game.
I thought you were talking about. I thought you said a different game. I thought you said Mass Effect for some reason. I don't. I realize you didn't say it, but that's what I equated in my brain.
All good. All good.
We need to limit the wine consumption on this podcast.
Or just lower the alcohol volume. Okay. Then, Shawn, you called it again. Like the whole episode ended with a shot of the White Walkers. That's what you said last episode.
Yeah.
How this episode is going to end.
But not the Night King.
No, not the Night King.
So what's up with that then?
He's coming around on the dragon from the south.
Yeah.
Oy.
Like, obviously, we wouldn't see the Night King because the Night King has a new horse. It's got wings.
Yeah, it's because it's ruined regular
Yeah.
horses, regular undead horses for him now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, then we're going to get a fight, of course, next episode.
Are we moving into prediction land now?
We've
guess
already
so.
been predicting, but
Yeah,
we
but
can make
we're-
more general predictions now. So, Shawn, do you have any predictions you want to share?
I think we should start with just like characters, like what characters are gonna be alive and dead at the end of next episode.
Yeah, I put here that we should predict the character deaths.
The interruption guy will die.
Really?
Whatever his name, I think he's gonna die.
Okay.
I just think it'd be funny.
In terms of major characters, ones that I'm pretty sure are dead, Grey Worm.
Yeah.
Like he's already
Worm's
made
dead.
plans for the future. He's dead as hell.
Oh yeah.
Plus he's a minority, so like that's extra dead.
He might be the first one.
Yeah.
Especially because we got a show with zombies. It's kind of like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Black dude dies first.
Yeah. And it's a fantasy, like, you know how racist fantasies are. Like, you know, how many black dudes you see in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, or
The
in
orcs.
Skyrim, like there's no,
Yeah.
like there's like one,
Yeah.
like default black dude in Skyrim.
But there are cats.
Yeah. So Grey Worm definitely dead.
Okay.
Theon, I think he's dead. Whether or not he'll be able to save or redeem himself by defending Bran, who knows? I still think Bran is going to live, but whether or not Theon does anything meaningful, we'll see.
I think an interesting thing that they could do is sort of restrict Theon from completing his arc. So he survives, but he didn't want to. But he got, like, I don't know, somehow separated from what was going on. And then maybe he has to do something later. So he becomes maybe a more important player. I think that'd be interesting. if
Like
they
he
did
sits
that.
on the Iron Throne.
Yeah, Theon on the Iron Throne.
Tyrion, I think he'll live.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a safe bet.
They put a lot of effort into redeeming him. He's
Yeah.
definitely not going to die at this point.
Yeah.
A lot of people lost their plot armor by completing or getting closure on their arcs.
Yeah.
And they just added more to Tyrion.
Yeah. So I'm thinking Tyrion, Jaime, Daenerys, Jon. I think those four are living at the end of next episode.
Yeah. Do you think anyone will lose any limbs? That'd be kind of interesting.
Jaime has to confront Cersei,
Yeah.
and the Hound has to live as well.
I don't know. I could see
No.
the Hound
No.
dying.
Mountain. No. Clegane Bull.
Yeah,
I know.
No. Shawn, don't give up hope.
If the Clegane Bull is happening, then he'll live. But if it's not, obviously, then he's going to die, I think.
I like the idea that the Night King will take control of the mountain, and the Hound will have to fight him as a ice zombie, whatever you call him.
Yeah, not just a regular zombie now.
But I think if the Hound survives this battle, Beric is going to die.
I'm okay with that. I don't care about Beric.
But because if you think about it, Beric's pretty much main storyline is the Great War, which it's come. He's here. He's ready to fight it with his fucking lightsaber. Yeah.
Yeah, so Beric's dead.
Arya, I think
Arya's not gonna die.
I don't know. She had sex.
That's true. Do you think that was a real thing that her character would do? It felt a little weird, not only because of everything else that we had discussed.
I don't think it was necessarily out of her character, but I definitely think it's more like another character. I think it sounds something more like Lyanna Stark would have done.
'Cause she is Lyanna Stark reborn.
Yeah.
What? Arya?
Yeah.
I think I lost what you guys were saying.
Arya Stark is just trying to, obviously she wants to live, but she's gone through enough where she is like, well, if I'm going to go through some serious like that people are saying that I haven't dealt with, and I've dealt with some serious then I might as well get laid before I deal with this serious.
Okay, so she might not die.
I don't think she's gonna die.
She's not gonna die.
At least not this episode. I think Gendry's probably alive. Davos is still alive. I honestly don't know what's gonna happen during the crypts, though.
I'm saying.
I before I guess you guys can do all your character predictions.
I'm saying Davos dies.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be an ironic twist because he's saying like, "Oh, I've survived all these battles and you can't too," and he's going to die like very quickly. I think
Sansa
that'd be,
lives.
Sansa
Yeah.
lives because she has
Yeah.
to have her confrontation with Dany.
I only have one thing to add on this, and that's Melisandre. Do you think she'll swoop in with her fire priestesses and then kind of help or save the day?
I think she's gone.
I don't think
No.
she's going to do anything until after this episode.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to have an effect. I feel like all the players we have are set. I don't think there's going to be another Nates of the Vale situation.
Yeah, at least I hope
Mates
that
of the Vale.
I hope there's no like
Not another one of those tropes.
Deus Ex Machina,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I'm sure I just butchered that pronunciation, but I'll blame the wine.
I don't really have any predictions beyond that. I mean, I think the only thing you can predict is who's going to die. And we've touched on that.
Well, but we can definitely make more predictions than that.
Do you have any more you want to add?
My theory is that both the living dragons will stay living.
Okay.
My theory is that the plan to kill the Night King and have all the dead people, I don't think that's going to work.
No way. But I think they will take out some of like the generals.
Oh yeah,
and that will become the strategy.
Mm-hmm. But I definitely think with the Night King himself, I don't think that's going to be a kill him solution.
Do you think the Night King will be wrapped up in this battle, like that arc? Because if there's a second major battle with Cersei, it's going to be messy.
See, that's the question I don't know. That's what because when I imagine this season, I can't imagine anything past the next episode.
Yeah, like this would have been episode 5,
Mhm.
right? It could be. But it's not. So it's hard to say what's going to happen after this episode.
Yeah.
Which we're not predicting that.
Yeah, but especially when we know that the battle that has been foreshadowed essentially since episode 1 is happening only on the 3rd episode of the last season. So you got to wonder what happens.
I read somewhere that George R.R. Martin talks about an ending where people just kind of settle into normalcy.
I can see it.
Yeah, that could happen. I want to do one more thing.
Oh, but
Let's talk about the best character arcs so far. I mean, and really this is presumably as far as most of them are going to get.
Hot Pie has the best character arc. I mean, have you seen his pies recently?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
the pie that was promised.
So, you guys have any favorite character arcs?
Gendry got some hot pie. Never mind.
Oh, no, dude, you didn't like it.
I'm sorry.
Are you?
Not really.
Do you guys have any favorite
She's
character
a
arcs?
grown woman. She could have sex if she wants to.
Yeah, of course, but
That
isn't
doesn't
it
make
cre-
it any more awkward.
It's creepy that
It felt like-
Benioff and Weiss have seen this kid grow up, and yeah, maybe she's of legal age now, but they made the decision.
I do think it is. I don't think it
I don't-
should have been there. I don't think it. I don't think it fit her character. It felt unnatural.
I don't think it's out of line, but I don't think it makes it any less awkward to watch.
If it's not out of line, it's straddling that line.
Yeah, but Game of Thrones, the books themselves have always straddled the line, because if you're not uncomfortable, his theory is if you're not uncomfortable, then you're clearly not invested.
George R.R. Martin should meet Miyazaki, the developer of Dark Souls.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
We're getting into video games. Forget
It's
it
a
now.
similar
Move on.
philosophy.
Best character arcs. All right. Do you want to go?
Podrick.
Justin's just joking around now. Like, he has lost his attention. He's too drunk or whatever.
I mean, Jamie has obviously one of the better ones, and the joke is always that if you start watching the show with someone and they say who's your favorite character, and you say Jamie because he's so interesting and he turns around so much, they're gonna hate you because he pushed some kid out of a window because he was screwing his sister.
Yeah.
So he's definitely turned around. I think Tyrion's arc has been muddled by bad writing and bad plot design. And as much as they try to get the audience to sort of reconnect with him through having the characters reconnect with him, I don't think it doesn't entirely redeem him in my mind. He still feels like a fake character,
A
almost.
forced.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want to know who I think has improved the most over the seasons?
Sansa.
Okay, like you can't stand him the early seasons, but like now,
Joffrey, because he's
yes, exactly.
What?
dead. Really?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
What? Really?
Yeah,
It's a joke.
yeah. But no, I really like Theon's, but I think Theon's arc depends on what happens next episode. Because I think if Theon, I don't know, they have to do Theon in a right way. I don't want to see him like come out perfectly fine, like you're like you've gone through all this and like now you get out scot-free, but I also don't want to see him like suffer anymore, you know?
I think he needs to die to fulfill his arc. I think that's the only way he can effectively fulfill it. And that's what I was saying. I think it would be interesting if he doesn't, and then he doesn't get to fulfill his like he is pledging himself to Winterfell at this point and saying, I will fight for you. And I think in order to really show that commitment, in order to show that he's turned around, he needs to die for that cause. And if he can't do that, then that will be sort of him not being able to fulfill that.
Interesting.
So, but I definitely think he needs to die.
Like that idea.
I think I like Sam's progression as a character.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the underdog, always has been, and he does more impressive stuff than somebody like Ed, for example, who is more physically capable, maybe not more mentally capable, but so he just pulls it out from under you, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we've been recording for over 2 hours.
Yes, we
so
have.
Jesus.
Now I know, right? On an episode where nothing happened as far as Game of Thrones
Maybe
goes.
next week.
So much happened. I like that this was just people talking in rooms.
Yeah.
That has
Classic.
been missing.
Maybe
a
that
lot.
gave us more to talk about.
Exactly.
Now it's time for Off the Throne.
So my contribution this week is a mod for a video game. The video game in question being Crusader Kings 2 by Paradox Interactive. And in the original game, unmodded, you play as any major or minor lord from anywhere in Europe and the Middle East and parts of India, from anywhere from the year 700 to the year around 1200 to 1300 AD.
Okay.
And it's all based on factual history. So like you can play as, say, Charlemagne and try and prevent his kingdom from collapsing into the historical kingdoms that they became, etc. So this game translates well to Game of Thrones
I could see that.
because you play as a lord rather than like your nation or your family. So your job is to make marriages for your house, have children with the person you've married, arrange betrothals for your children, that kind of thing. And it works very well for the Game of Thrones universe, especially with some of the flavor events and all that have been added specifically for this game. So like
Red Wedding.
yes. So all like the historical events, like you can essentially pick a point in the story of Game of Thrones, and they have it set up divided by the time in the story. So you could say start right after Robert started his rebellion and try and command Robert's armies to win the war.
Nice.
Or you could say start 300 years before when Aegon the Conqueror started to come over, and you could try and conquer Westeros as Aegon the Conqueror, or try and stop him as like the
Starks or whatever.
the Starks, or the lords that came before the current major houses now.
The Martells.
Um,
Maybe not.
And it's very well done the way that they do it. They've added like dragons and all that, and it just fits very well for the Game of Thrones alternate. It's very good for making alternate histories, because it's kind of a sandbox game. Because like you start off, and then like any other character can do random things. You can obviously set it to be more historical based on more realistic projections, but like sometimes you could have stories where Daenerys conquers all of Essos and like doesn't even bother Westeros, or like you see these really cool posts of like people talking about their games where in my game Bronn married Cersei and Cersei didn't become queen, and
they could be in the same room together.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's a super interesting recommendation.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, the mod is completely free. If you look up Crusader Kings 2, a Game of Thrones, it should be the first thing you Google. Just a forewarning that the game does have a lot of DLCs. That the mod does utilize. So if you want to play it single player, you have to own a lot of the DLCs, which can amp up the price of the game. But the nice thing about this company is that if you have a friend who owns the game, if they own all the expansions and all the DLCs, you can join their game without having to purchase those.
Ooh. This seems like a very all-around good company.
Yeah. So that's my contribution to Off the Throne.
I like it.
Crusader Kings 2, a Game of Thrones mod.
Yes, and
if you're into if you're into grand strategy games, go ahead and look it up.
Is it sort of like a Civilization-esque?
You don't. There's no expansion, and they took the tech progression out of the base game because Westeros doesn't appear to advance in tech. But like it in terms of like depth, like you can go as like it has the entire Game of Thrones map. You can play as like you can be as far away from the relevant world, and like I've started a game where I've wanted to become the king of Ib on the Isle of Ibn, and like colonize the parts of Essos that are kind of forgotten, and you can do that if you want, and like take over the Dothraki Sea, kind of like stop them from coming around, like build your fortress in Essos if you want. You can start as a shy, and like I think they have like certain magic events that happen.
This is a hardcore like Game of Thrones fan wet dream.
Yeah, they took everything that they could from the source material. They have an option, like you can choose, I want only the book things, or I want things that happen in the show too to happen, and you can kind of choose which you want.
That's cool.
But it has pretty much every major and minor character that's listed in a Game of Thrones somewhere in this game that you can play as and start as.
That's cool. I like that a lot. Yeah. Are you gonna play Eston?
I've been interested in Crusader Kings in general, and now that's more interesting. So maybe. So sticking with video games, I actually had a different recommendation, but I'll go with this instead. So I don't know if you know who the Game Grumps are, Shawn.
I do.
So
what about me?
I know you know who they are because we've talked about them.
Do I?
So there's a playlist that I'd recommend that is the Jacob Anderson Game Grumps episodes, and Jacob Anderson is the actor who plays Grey Worm, who, as we have discussed, will soon die, and he's hilarious, and he goes on their show as a guest. I specifically want to recommend the one where they play Mario Kart, because they start out playing Game of Thrones, like not that. They start out playing like some crappy licensed game that always get made, and it just is crappy. And so Jacob is like, this sucks. And then they play Mario Kart. But they're really funny. Like Jacob is a really likable guy, and I like Grey Worm more now that I know the actor. The same was true of Arya, actually. And so yeah, they're really funny videos. They also play like Jeopardy and Echo the Dolphin, so not necessarily having to do with Game of Thrones, but they're good. And that one episode does have to do with the Game of Thrones game, which is just atrocious.
Which Game of Thrones game is it? Is it the Telltale Games one?
No. This is a different one. And I mean, I just looked up the video. It is just called Game of Thrones, but you play as you create a character that's in the Night's Watch and you play in the Night's Watch. I think like slightly before and then into the beginning of the show, and it looks really bad. I have heard of the Telltale ones. I don't know how good those are.
I was able to play through like the first couple minutes, but one, I don't know what happened to it because I know Telltale went out of business recently. But it certainly, from the time that I played it, it's certainly a different type of game than other games. It's not like a game. It's more of a story game.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what all of Telltale's stuff are. They're like adventure-esque games.
That's something you gotta like know beforehand.
Yeah, it's like they became famous because of the Walking Dead Telltale games.
Yeah.
And then they came out with Game of Thrones. I never played either of those. I just know of it.
I like games with gameplay.
Not just like a book with motion or whatever. So anyway, I will be sticking with boring and recommending a music video. So again, a little bit more crossover. So in episode 25 of Memorycast, I recommended a channel by the name of Maluka, who did a Skyrim cover. A Skyrim, like a song in Skyrim, like Dovahkiin, right? But I remembered today, actually, that I reached out to her, and I talked about this in the other podcast, but I reached out to her when she wasn't a huge channel, like on her Facebook page, and because she was looking for recommendations of what to cover, right? Because she was getting traction, and I told her, you should cover Reigns of Castamere, right? And like a week later, she came out with that video.
Nice.
Right. So I'm recommending that video, and it is from 2012.
Very nice.
And she did a very good job with it. The quality, like as far as equipment goes, is not super great, but she did an awesome job with it. And I'll point out here on this podcast too that she is from my hometown, which I always found very entertaining because it's just funny to see somebody that came from the same place that you were born in. Especially with similar interests, and I'm recommending Maluka, Reigns of Castamere, Game of Thrones cover. I guess that closes us out for today. This was a long podcast. It's going to take a long time to edit.
Good luck with it.
God damn it.